Yo, what's going on, yo? What's going on, Sixer Nation? DFJ Hoops here, back again with another live stream. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. My regulars, one Mike, Humble Man, 420. Appreciate you, bro. Appreciate you. He says, "Let's go." I'm Liddy, like Philly, like sub and share. Appreciate you. Appreciate you, Humble. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. But yeah, I got another show today. Gonna be very, very interesting. And the agenda for today is we're gonna talk about the iconic AI jerseys return for next season. VJ Edgecombe getting a lot of buzz to start for next season, and then also we have this Quentin Grimes update that we got to get into. So as soon as y'all come in, like Humble said, like, share, and subscribe. And yeah, let's get right into it. Let's not waste any more time. I don't plan on being on here for a very long time. So, first of all, the AI iconic jerseys. First of all, salute to Carmelo Anthony because Carmelo Anthony will be getting inducted into the Hall of Fame by his former teammate Allen Iverson. They both played in Denver for about 2 seasons, and then AI had to move on. I mean, he got moved to the Detroit Pistons. That was back in 08, 09. I can't get the years right, but yeah, right around there. But yeah, the case in point is that congratulations to Carmelo Anthony. Carmelo Anthony had a very, very successful and illustrious career. In my opinion, I think he's a top 10 scorer of all time. His scoring arsenal was just like he had a good post up game, one of the best shooters in the league, had a money mid range game. Like he was elite as a scorer. Now, as a player, not so well, right? He didn't really have enough success, but as a scorer, he did his job to the best of his abilities and impacted the Denver Nuggets and the Knicks when he was in his prime. So congratulations to Carmelo Anthony. But the Sixers bringing these jerseys back. I mean, first of all, these jerseys were so iconic. And even to this day, I see a lot of kids from different countries, in Africa, in the Middle East. You'd be surprised how many kids still have some of these jerseys on to this day. I had mine, but I had to give it to my nephew because it was too little. But these jerseys were iconic, and AI just, AI's aura was just, it took it to a whole nother level, right? Now, the Sixers also had other iconic jerseys, but I don't think anything beats this one right here. This one was so, like, every kid back in the 2000s, every kid had one. Everybody had one. Even kids in different states had one because a lot of people were AI fans, and a lot of people really love this jersey. So the Sixers bringing this back. I mean, I love it for one because these jerseys were so iconic, but I just have a little problem because for number one, we don't know the we're a little uncertain about Joel Embiid and Paul George. Like your two best players are not going to be playing. So do you really want to bring these jerseys back when you know good and damn well that the team is not going to be good? I mean, there's rumors that they would bring it next. I mean, there's rumors that they would bring it last season, right? But at the last minute, they changed their minds and they decided not to bring it back. But this season, it's been confirmed that they're going to bring it. And this was the statement that was made, right? Salute to y'all for being in here. The Sixers intend to celebrate the 25-year anniversary of the 2001 finals team with tributes that include bringing back the iconic black Iverson era uniforms per Austin Krell. The franchise intends to celebrate the anniversary of the 2001 team that made the finals, etching the iconic Iverson crossover over Tyronn Lue in Game 1 in Sixers history. More information will be shared in the coming weeks, a source told Patterson. Um, Humble says that's tough. AI inducting Melo into the Hall of Fame. That's pretty dope. Yeah, absolutely. AI and I think D Wade, right? Those two are going to be inducting him into the Hall of Fame. And like I said, Melo absolutely deserves it. I think Melo was robbed of being a part of the 30-point club. That's just my opinion. I believe Melo should have definitely hit 30,000. But certain things got into the way. He had to leave, come back with the Portland Trailblazers, and it didn't really end well for him. But Melo's one of the greatest scorers of all time, so absolutely a Hall of Famer. But yeah, like I was saying, I just want to know the status of Joel Embiid and Paul George before making a move like this because I don't want them to bring these jerseys and then the Sixers are terrible, right? You don't want to see that. You don't want to see the Sixers losing in these jerseys because these ones are so iconic and there's only good things that should be associated with it, right? So that's the only issue I have with it. But other than that, I think it's a good thing that they're bringing these back. The only thing is, the Paul George and Joel Embiid thing. But he says, "What's your favorite Sixers jersey?" Yeah, this one right here. I think this one was very, very iconic. And we had the white ones too. The white ones were so tough. Yeah, this one right here too. These ones were very, very tough too. But I think the black ones were much better than these ones. But these ones are also tough. But the jerseys right now, I don't really like it. But these ones are so iconic that everybody back in the day everybody had one, right? Everybody had one, and if you didn't have one, you wasn't really a Sixer fan, right? So, the Sixers bringing these back are very, very good. It's going to be very, very dope, and I just want to see the team being good and then also winning, in those jerseys. I mean, hell, who knows? I mean, if they bring it back and the Sixers are so good that they can get to the conference finals, guess what? That'll be so good, right? And then possibly get to the finals because when they wore the jerseys, excuse me, they went to the finals, right? They went to the finals, and we saw AI have, one of his best finals series in the NBA finals, averaging 35 points per game, and then also having this iconic moment where he stepped over Ty Lue. I mean, I watched interviews about this, and from Ty Lue and from AI. And then, AI was saying how Ty Lue was just bothering him in that game. When he checked in, like he was just bothering him on the defensive side, chasing him around, trying to contest all his shots and making it very, very difficult for him. So Ty Lue was elite as a guard defender. Now we know in today's era, if you're not really a scorer, right, people are not going to give you the credit that you deserve. But Ty Lue absolutely, took that assignment, and he did get cooked, right? He did get cooked, which I mean, everybody gets cooked by AI because AI is that he's so elite as a scorer. He's so elite as an offensive player. So it's going to be very, very difficult for you to contain him, especially if you're the same size as him. You're done, right? The handles, the slick moves, and his craftiness is just off the charts. And if you're gonna guard him, like if you take that assignment, you have to take it very, very serious because AI would definitely embarrass you, as he embarrassed Ty Lue in this picture right here, right? Now, it's not as embarrassing as some of his other moments against other defenders, but this one, crossing him over, hitting the shot, and also stepping over him, that was just, yeah, it was so disrespectful, right? It was so disrespectful. But Ty Lue, being the competitor that he was, he didn't really care about it because, I mean, the Lakers ended up winning the series, but AI had his moment right there, and Ty Lue will be remembered forever in NBA history for being the player that AI crossed over, hit the shot, and also stepped or walked over him. So that's that. But I mean, I really love Ty Lue though. I'm a huge Ty Lue guy, right? Even though there's certain things going on with him as a current head coach for the Clippers, I still like Ty Lue. I always like that Sixers jersey style, but in the white, then the blue, then the black. So you like the white? Yeah, the blue ones were also tough, but I mean, I like the black, the white, and then the blue. Like those ones were very, very tough. And like I said, AI just he took them to a whole nother level. And in that moment, in the time, like if you were to envision or imagine an NBA player, like you would imagine Allen Iverson. Somebody wearing that black jersey, cornrows, tattoos, the armbands, the headbands, the arm sleeve, like everything was Allen Iverson. And AI was the person who made those jerseys what they were. So I'm from Cleveland, and I had a black Sixers jersey. Literally, everyone had one. You ain't lying, bro. Yeah, like I said, everybody had one. Not just in Philly, but in different states. As Humble is saying right here. He's from Cleveland, and he had one of them. So, I think it'd be very, very great if they bring it back, and especially if the Sixers are doing well in the Eastern Conference, if they're winning games, being competitive, and being one of the top contenders in the East. That'll be so tough. And then imagine if they can now I know this might sound crazy, but imagine if they can, finish what the 01 team started 25, 26 years ago. That'd be a great, great story, right? That'd be a great story if we can finish what they started. But that's just that's just me living in a wonderful fantasy land. I don't think that's going to happen because there are very, very good teams, and it'll be a difficult challenge for the Sixers to even get to that level. I mean, especially if we don't even know the status of the two best players on the team. So yeah, that'd be cute. But if it happens, I would be happy about it. But the chances of it happening is very, very little. So yeah, hopefully they drop it, and hopefully the Sixers are not as terrible as they were last season because I don't want this iconic, jerseys to be associated with losing. Now, yeah, they did lose in the finals, but that was the finals. That's the NBA finals. That's um the biggest stage in basketball, in my opinion. And some years back, I was having conversations with Aaron McKee, who was on the Sixer team that went to the finals. He was the Sixth Man of the Year actually, and he was telling us stories throughout that finals run, and those stories were just funny. Some of those stories were very, very surprising, and I had to go do my research as well because he was talking about the conference finals where Ray Allen and Sam Cassell were just they were just balling out, and it was just like, damn, they went through all of this. They went through the Raptors series. They went 7, and then the conference finals also went 7, and then they get to the finals and then they get demolished. But it was very, very fun. Fun time to be alive at that point, especially if you were living in Philly. And those moments are very, very iconic, right? Those moments are very, very iconic. So like I said, I just want this uniforms to be associated with something great and not with losing. So hopefully the Sixers can be healthy and do something special with these jerseys on and not be as terrible as they were from last season. So that's my take on it. But moving forward, let's pivot to VJ Edgecombe, right? Let's pivot to VJ Edgecombe. Now, VJ, third overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft. There's a report that came out that he should be a starter. Now, I've said this from the beginning. I've said this from the start. I think VJ should come off the bench, right? Or at least he should earn his starting spot. It shouldn't be given to him. He should just earn it, right? And me knowing Nick Nurse, I know that he said they could definitely do a documentary on NBA teams who made it to the finals but lost. Yeah, that is true. That's absolutely true. And there are some documentaries of NBA teams like that. So yeah, you're not lying. But yeah, as I was saying, there's a report that just came out that's suggesting that Nick Nurse should start VJ Edgecombe. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my screen, and then we're gonna both read this article right here. So, and this time I'm gonna share my screen. I'm not gonna have no pictures in front of it. So, yeah, here we go. And I smash that like button. Smash that like button as y'all come in. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. All right, so that's it right there. Yeah, let me start from yeah. So it says Sixers encouraged to make bold rotation choice. I mean it should be Nick Nurse, not not the Sixers. But so it says VJ Edgecombe heads into his rookie season with unenviable task of trying to crack the Philadelphia 76ers' rotation. Now, I agree with this, right? He should be trying to crack the rotation, right? It shouldn't just be handed to him, especially the starting five, right? I think he should come off the bench, but the starting five, if he's going to be a start, if he's going to be a starter, he should earn that spot. It shouldn't be given to him. The third overall draft pick will contend with Tyrese Maxey, Jared McCain, and Kyle Lowry for a spot in the Sixers' backcourt rotation. Now, I mean, Maxey's not going to have to compete or contend with anybody for a spot, right? His spot is already guaranteed, right? Maxey has put in the work over the last 2, 3, maybe 4 seasons, right? He's earned his spot, so I don't think he's going to compete with anybody. It's not going to be no situation where Maxey's coming off the bench. It's not going to happen. But Jared McCain, Kyle Lowry. Now, Kyle Lowry should not even be in this conversation in the first place, right? He shouldn't even be in this conversation. He's in year 20, right? He's in the Udonis Haslem phase of his career, right? He's not going to contend or compete with anybody for no spot, right? He's just a veteran who's going to be on the team, and he's just going to help the younger guys, right? That's his role. But in a recent article for the Sixer Sense, Nicholas Kyle Prank suggested that the Sixers should consider starting VJ Edgecombe next to Tyrese Maxey. That move would put Jared McCain as a primary scorer with the second unit, ensuring that there's some form of bucket getting coming off the bench. The 76ers coaching staff should seriously contemplate starting VJ Edgecombe Instead, Kyle Pring wrote, the third overall pick in the 2025 NBA draft may be more unproven than Jared McCain, but he will give the opening group a much better balance on both ends of the floor. Edgecombe is a dynamic three-level scorer who can supply whatever McCain produces on the scoring end just as well, if not better. First of all, there's a lot of things that I disagree with this, right? And there's some things that I agree. Now, number one, I don't condone midget backcourts, right? So this article is assuming that Quentin Grimes is not going to be with the Sixers for next season, right? So that's where I think that's the perspective that the report is coming from. So if Quentin Grimes is not going to be with the Sixers next season, then okay, yeah, VJ Edgecombe should start because I don't condone midget backcourts. I don't like midget backcourts. And that's why I think the Cleveland Cavaliers are not going to win shit. Hey, humble, my bad, bro. But 2 6'1" players on the same team as starters, I just don't believe in it. But that's a conversation for another time. But yeah, that's one of the things that I agree with in this article, right? That if Quentin Grimes is not coming back, then yes, VJ Edgecombe should be the starter for the team, right? He should start, and it would be a disaster to start Maxey and Jared McCain. Now I know some Sixer fans want that, right, for offensive purposes, but for defensive purposes, it's just going to be a disaster because these two guys are liabilities on the defensive side of the floor, right? And that's something that VJ Edgecombe really thrives at, right? He's very, very good as a defender. His quickness, his length, his athleticism really helps him be a very, very good defender. Now, whether he's going to be a lockdown defender, I don't know. But a good enough defender who can start alongside either Tyrese Maxey or Jared McCain, he should be good in that role, right? So that's one thing I agree with in the article. One thing I disagree with is that VJ Edgecombe being a 3-level or 3-tier scorer. I don't think so. I think Jared McCain rather is a 3-level scorer because, Jared McCain, when he got his opportunity and he showcased what he was capable of doing, right, he showed you that he can shoot off the dribble. He showed you he can shoot spotting up. He showed you he can shoot coming off a screen, right? He showed you that he could also slash to the basket and, get easy opportunities at the rim or either, use his shoulder, create enough separation and then step back for a mid-range jumper. That's what let me get this out of here. Yeah, that's what Jared McCain was capable of doing, right? And he has some good stretches. Some against terrible teams, but others were against some of the best teams in the Eastern Conference, right? And one of those games that I keep going back to is the game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? Where he finished with 34 points and 10 assists, right? He showed you variety of ways in which he can get his buckets, right? Which was shooting threes, right? Get into the basket, even get into the free throw line also because he slashed as well. So as a 3-tier scorer, I don't think VJ Edgecombe is better than Jared McCain as a scorer because McCain is a better scorer in my opinion. He's a better shooter in my opinion, right? Like I said, he can shoot from the corner, shoot above the break, shoot on the slot, top of the key, and then he can do it in a variety of ways, whether it's him spotting up, him coming off a screen, or him, off the dribble, right? He showed us that, right? And then also, he has better ball handling skills, right? He can create for others better than a VJ Edgecombe, right? Jared McCain and Joel Embiid, the two-man game is just as good as the two-man game between Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. And we saw last season where even Jared McCain even said that he couldn't believe how wide open he was playing with Embiid. I don't think that if you put VJ Edgecombe in that spot, I don't think that he can capitalize as much, with those wide open looks, especially shooting from the 3-point line, right? Because the paint is going to be clogged, it's going to be congested. And I think VJ is a better slasher than Jared McCain. When you talk about scoring or offensively, he's a better slasher than Jared McCain. He's a better finisher around the basket than Jeremy Kane because of the athleticism, right? So you definitely have to give that to him, right? Maybe he sets better screens because he's a bigger body, 6'5", even though he's not going to be setting a lot of screens, but he's definitely a better screen setter, better slasher and a better finisher around the basket. But everything else when it comes to offense, I think Jeremy Kane, you have to give the edge to Jeremy Kane, whether shooting, creating opportunities, shot creation for himself, for his teammates, ball handling, shooting, like all those attributes go to Jeremy Kane. So from that aspect, yeah, I think Jeremy Kane is a better scorer. But if we are looking for versatility from the backcourt, yes, VJ Edgecombe should be starting alongside Tyrese Maxey. And that is if Quentin Grimes is not going to re-sign with the Sixers. If Grimes returns to the Sixers, VJ Edgecombe's ass should go to the bench. That's what I believe, until he earns his spot. If he earns it, if he's able to outplay Quentin Grimes in training camp, in preseason or whatever, and he's done enough just to earn the 2-guard spot, I have no issues with it. Right? I have no issues with it. And salute to Big Fan Breezy. Appreciate you for stopping by. Brooklyn Nets fan, y'all should definitely go check him out. With funny personality too. Yeah, but just like I was saying, I don't think VJ is a better 3-tier scorer or a 3-level scorer better than Jeremy Kane, because the shooting is a little bit shaky, right? Because even in summer league, he had a game where he was like 0 for 7 from the 3-point line until he changed it in the second half, right? But if you gave Jeremy Kane those looks, he's definitely knocking those down, right? He's definitely going to knock them down. And also he can create offense for his teammates. As we saw the 2-man game between himself and Joel Embiid, right? Where he was getting Embiid some easy shots in the mid-range, which those are pretty much open looks for Embiid. Like if you can get him the ball in those spots, he's definitely going to knock them down, right? He's not even going to see you contesting the shot. But I don't think VJ Edgecombe can create those opportunities for Joel Embiid or for anybody else. I think his best attribute is, slashing to the basket, cutting to the basket, and, finishing, using his quickness, using his athleticism to finish over defenses and, things of that nature. But as far as him creating opportunities, shooting, nah, that's not his best suit. At least not as of right now, right? Not as of right now, but he's still good. He's still going to help the Sixers, from a defensive standpoint of view, bringing his athleticism. We definitely need those rebounds, right? The Sixers need those rebounds, and I think he could be one of the best rebounding guards in the league. I've said this multiple times. I'm going to keep saying it. I think VJ Edgecombe is definitely going to be one of the best rebounding guards in the game, and he might also get a lot of points off of backdoor cuts. Backdoor cuts and, things of that nature. But him creating his own shot, it's gonna take some time for him to get that down, right? And then creating for others, that's gonna come, with experience, right? If he's getting the opportunities to do it, if he's getting the opportunity to play, if he's getting the opportunity to get better, he's definitely gonna work on those, and those are gonna be maybe not strengths, but he's gonna be very, very good at it, right? But yeah, Quentin Grimes should be starting if he comes back. Not VJ Edgecombe, but if Quentin Grimes does not come back, then yes, VJ Edgecombe should be the starter, right? Because I don't believe in midget backcourts. I don't believe in 2 little guards starting, right? I want some size, pause, in the backcourt, right? You need some size to go along with Tyrese Maxey. Pause again, right? So that's that. But I think the article was a good article, showing VJ some love. But I know Nick Nurse, right? I know Nick Nurse. He's been the Sixers head coach for the last 2 seasons, and I know what he's capable of doing. And he's not just going to hand over the spot to VJ Edgecombe, right? He's going to make him earn it, right? He's going to make him earn it. So, and I think that's the best decision, right? Like kids like that, you don't have to give them opportunities. You got to let them earn it. And I believe that VJ Edgecombe is capable of earning his spot. He's capable of earning his own minutes. Now, he's definitely going to be in the rotation, no questions, right? Now, to be in the rotations, you don't have to be a starter to be in the rotations. You can come off the bench and do what you're good at, right? And whatever role that the head coach gives you, you should be able to come off the bench and carry that assignment out to the fullest, right? Because it's going to be a what, 8, 9, maybe sometimes a 10-man rotation. So yeah, VJ definitely has a spot within those 10-man rotations. But as a starter, especially if Quentin Grimes is coming back, he's gonna have to earn his minutes. Yep. Yeah, smash that like button, like Big Fan Breezy said, and also go check out his channel, right? Brooklyn Nets content creator. And like I said, he's a funny personality too. Humble says, bro said, I don't believe in midget backcourts. I can only feel Oh man. Bro, that's what it is, man. I mean, they're 6'1", going up against giants, so they're midgets. Now they're taller, but they're midgets. Yeah. I know, bro. I know. But yeah, let me get into the last thing right here. And yeah, we can end this right here. I don't plan on doing something longer. Pause. But yeah, that's that. But moving forward, let's pivot to the last thing, the Quentin Grimes update. Right now, Quentin Grimes, unrestricted free agent for the Sixers. The Sixers still have his bird rights, but at this point, it's just taking too long for both sides. And when I say both sides, I mean the Sixers and Quentin Grimes as representatives. It's been very, very difficult for them to, come to a conclusion on a deal. Now, people were speculating that he might leave, as in, go for the sign and trade. Others were also saying that he might go for the qualifying offer, right? Now, according to recent reports, it's saying that Quentin Grimes is more likely to settle for the qualifying offer, right? The Sixers, he's going to sign for the Sixers qualifying offer for $8.7 million for 1 year, and then the next season become an unrestricted free agent and test the market and see what is available for him, what's the best for him, and then go from there. Now, I'm going to talk about this from the Sixers standpoint of view and also from Quentin Grimes' standpoint of view, right? I'm going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages for both sides and whether or not it's a good decision if he decides to go that route. So, who should I start with? I'm gonna start with the Sixers side, right? I'm gonna go with the Sixers side. Yeah, smash the like button. So the Sixers, if both sides come to an agreement and he does sign for $8.7 million, now guess what? The advantages for the Sixers. So number one, you don't have to commit to Quentin Grimes. I was about to say VJ Edgecombe. You don't have to commit to Grimes long term, right? You got him on a 1 year rental. So guess what? If he underperforms, because that's what some teams are speculating, right? That the stretch that he had with the Sixers, that was a fluke. That was like a one season wonder thing. And if you give him those minutes consistently, he's not going to be able to give you that amount of production consistently. That's what some teams are speculating. So if you get him on the 1 year rental, right, $8.7 million, for number one, you don't have to commit to him for the long term. And if he underperforms for that 1 year, guess what? In the offseason, you can decide that you want to go in a different direction. And guess what? You don't have to pay him. You don't have to regret paying him the $25 million that he was asking the season prior, right? Smash that like button, y'all. Smash that like button and also subscribe to the channel, DFJ Hoops, right? That's an advantage. You don't have to commit to him long term. And then another advantage is that you don't go over the second apron because 8.7. If you're given the 8.7, that's a significant drop from the 25 that he was asking for. And if you gave him if you gave him the 25, you would be going over the second apron or at least getting close to it, depending on how many years it is, right? But the 8.7 million is significantly lower than the 25 million, right? And if you're not going over the second apron, it gives you room to whether you want to go for players in a buyout market, whether you want to sign free agents, from overseas. Like it gives you room to operate, right? So that's another advantage that the Sixers would have if they If Quentin Grimes signs for the qualifying offer for 8.7 million, because also you didn't re-sign Gershon Yabusele, so that helps you a lot, right? It helps you a lot. Smash that like button. Now, if we go to the disadvantages, number one, a disadvantage for this is that if he ends up, oh my god, I don't even want to say this, but if he ends up balling out, right? If he ends up balling out and even performing much better than he did last season, or in the given amount of stretch that he had last season, then guess what? His options are going to be wide open, right? His options are going to be wide open, and certain teams might be willing to offer him more money than the Sixers could be willing to give him or would be able to give him. And then guess what? If he's in a situation like that, he's absolutely going to go for the most money that any team could give him, right? Because you're the Sixers, you're not willing to give him that much, or you can't give him that amount of money because you have fears of going over the second apron or whatever, or you don't want to commit to him long term. So if he balls out, yeah, that's a disadvantage to the Sixers, right? Because you had a chance to lock him up for long term, but you decided to not do it, right? So this thing could go both ways, right? It could go both ways. It could be a success, but on the other hand, it could also be a failure. Now, let's talk about it from Quentin Grimes' perspective. Right now, I think it's going to be a flip of what I said in terms of the advantages and disadvantages for the Sixers, but let's still talk about it, right? So an advantage is that if he ends up playing well, right, exceeding expectations, or even playing to the same level that he played at last season, then guess what? Teams are going to be willing to pay him a lot of money, right? Because for number one, you have a larger sample size of performing at this level. Because one reason why teams are hesitating giving him that money is that it was a small amount of sample size, right? That was after the All-Star break, whenever that was. Like, how many games did he play for the Sixers? 21, 22, 23? So it's not a large sample size, and teams don't want to commit to players after a small sample size, right? So teams want to see a larger sample size before they proceed to, give you a long-term deal or whatever deal they feel is necessary for you to have, right? So if he ends up, averaging the same amount of points, 22, 23 points per game, which, I don't think he's going to average that amount of points, especially if we have the three best players on the team, because he's not going to get the same opportunities. He's not going to get the same amount of touches, right? But if he ends up balling out, averaging 22 or 23, then guess what? When he becomes an unrestricted free agent, a lot of teams could be looking to lock him up for long term and giving him the most amount of money that he could be asking for, right? That could be an advantage. Or even if he plays so well and ends up making the All-Star team, then guess what? That's a lot of bonuses and a lot of incentives that comes with it, right? There's a lot of bonus and incentives that comes with making the All-Star team. So that works in his favor, right? It works in his favor. And then another advantage is that he doesn't have to settle for less, right? You don't have to settle for less, especially if you know your worth, right? If you know your worth, you don't have to settle for less. But a disadvantage or something could go wrong with this decision if he chooses to go for the 8.7 qualifying offer, right? Now, as much as I don't want this to happen, but what if, right? What if in the middle of the season makes a wrong move, ruptures his Achilles tendon? Now, God forbid this don't happen, right? Knock on wood. Hopefully this don't happen. I'm not wishing injuries on him, but what if, a wrong move, because injuries can happen at any given time, right? Injuries can happen at any given time, and sometimes you could be at fault. Sometimes it's not your fault. Things happen. What if a wrong move turns into a ruptured Achilles tendon? What if a wrong move turns into a meniscus injury or ACL injury, right? So then guess what? Teams are gonna take that advantage to lowball you on your next contract, right? The 25 that you was looking for the year prior, you're not going to get that. what teams would be willing to offer you would be something less. And that's one of the biggest risks when it comes to trying to bet on yourself, right? Players get hurt, or sometimes players don't play to the same level that they were playing at the seasons prior for them to get the bigger contract that they are looking for. And that's one of the biggest risks that comes with this, right? The injuries is my biggest concern. Now, there's been players who betted on themselves and they ended up being successful. Other players ended up not being successful, right? I think the last time I went over this, I talked about a few other players that play for the Sixers, other players that play for different teams, that betted on themselves, and it helped some players, and in other cases, it didn't work out for certain players, right? An example of a player that it didn't work out for was Dennis Schroeder, right? The Lakers offered him 84, 85 or whatever extension, right? But he turned it down, bet it on himself in order to earn more money in the offseason, and things didn't go well for the Lakers as they lost in the first round to the Phoenix Suns. This was back in 2021, right? Back in 2021, and then he had to be a journeyman, right? Had to go to Houston, had to go to Boston, had to go to different teams, and ended up back on the Lakers. They ended up moving him again, right? Went to Brooklyn, went to Golden State, and he's now in Detroit, right? When he could have just accepted that contract extension that the Lakers was trying to offer him and then go from there. But he betted on himself, and then guess what? He ended up having to sign for less, right? That's a player who betting on yourself didn't work out for him. Now, another player who it worked out for was Tobias Harris, as I brought him up the last time, right? Tobias Harris, 2019, the Clippers were trying to offer him an extension. He turned it down. They ended up moving him because they knew he was going to leave in the offseason, right? Gets moved to the Sixers. After getting moved to the Sixers, Humble says, I actually like Quentin Grimes. He's fun to watch. Yeah, he's absolutely right. He's fun to watch. There's, no question, right? Especially, the shot creation, the creativity, his versatility, right, on both sides of the floor, right, and also, making those huge shots, making those big plays, like that's entertaining to watch. And in some cases, it could be impactful, right? It could be very, very impactful. But yeah, so the Tobias Harris story, right, ends up getting moved to the Sixers. The Sixers took a chance, right? They took a chance. They lost in the second round to the Raptors, 2019, and then guess what? They decided to not move on or move forward with Jimmy Butler, right? So they ended up moving Jimmy Butler, and then guess what? Tobias Harris is a free agent, and the Sixers had no other choice but to bring back Tobias Harris because the small forwards that was on the market were not going to sign with the Sixers, right? KD was not going to sign for the Sixers. He ended up signing for Brooklyn. And then Kawhi Leonard also ended up going back home, which was going back to the Clippers or going back to LA. So the Sixers had no other choice but to bring back Tobias Harris, and they had to give him that contract because if they didn't give him that contract, he was going to walk for nothing. And if you're the Sixers, you can't afford to let Tobias Harris walk for nothing because you just got rid of Jimmy Butler, right? So the Sixers had no choice, and this is something that I always try to explain to outsiders. Oh, y'all chose Tobias Harris over Jimmy Butler. No, that's not how it is. You could say it that way, but there's a lot of context that goes into it, right? There's a lot of context that goes into it. And one of the reasons why they did that, one of the reasons why they decided to not move forward with Jimmy Butler was because of Benny the Bust, right? Benny the Bust is one of the biggest reasons why they decided not to move forward with Jimmy Butler when all they had to do was run this shit back. If they had done that, the Sixers would have definitely been in the finals, right? But they decided to go a different direction, and then guess what? Tobias Harris ended up getting the most amount of money that he ever received in terms of contracts, right? A 5-year, 180 for a player who never made the All-Star team. That's a significant overpay, right? That's a significant overpay. And then guess what? The Sixers ended up paying him all the way throughout that contract, right? He was in trade rumors every single year. He was on the trade block every single year, but it never happened. The Sixers never moved him, right? The Sixers never traded him. Smash that like button, y'all. Smash that like button. the Sixers talk, Sixers news, whatever you want to call it, off season. There's not a lot to talk about, but here we are. But yeah, that's a disadvantage, right? That if you get hurt, which I'm hoping that don't happen. I'm not wishing injuries on no player, but if you get hurt, teams are going to use that to lowball you on your next contract. So that could be a disadvantage if you go for the 1 year. If you bet on yourself for that 1 year, because anything can happen. Injuries can happen at any given time. See, the fakest is in here again. You know, because they got an old ass geriatric team. He feels like the Clippers are the shit. But there is. I'm gonna get on the Clippers when the season starts. BJ, I'm gonna probably be BJ's biggest enemy next season. And all y'all enemies, guess what? I'm gonna be y'all's enemy next year. But yeah, salute to the realist though. Always in here showing love. But yeah, injuries could be a disadvantage, right? That injury thing, And then another thing that I spoke about is underperforming, right? Underperforming. Now, underperforming comes in different ways, right? And especially it depends on the direction that the team is trying to head into and the role that the head coach gives you, right? Now, if the Sixers believe that Joel Embiid is healthy, Paul George is healthy, Maxi's healthy, they have a good enough team to contend in the Eastern Conference, then guess what? Quentin Grimes might end up getting a less role, right? Because what coach in their right minds is going to make Quentin Grimes a first, second, or third option on a championship team, especially if you have Joel Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George, right? You're paying these guys a lot of money, right? So you got to get the return on your investments, right? So Quentin Grimes, if that happens, Quentin Grimes might end up getting a less role. And guess what happens? What comes with having a less role? You're not going to have the same amount of shots. You're not going to have the same amount of touches, right? You're not going to be that much involved in the offense. And we know in today's NBA, you get paid based off the numbers, right? You get paid based off what you average, based on your production. Your production determines the amount of money that you make, right? The production, certain accolades, certain awards, making the All-Star team, All-NBA team, winning DPOY, leading the league in steals, blocks, what have you. Like that goes into the amount of money that you're able to make. And salute to my guy, Casual in the building. Appreciate you. But yeah, so if the Sixers determine that they can compete or contend in the East and they give you a lesser role, and then guess what? What happens if VJ Edgecombe starts outplaying you? Right? What happens if VJ Edgecombe starts outplaying you and takes your spot? Guess what? You might end up going to the bench, or worst case scenario, you might end up falling out of the rotation. So guess what? You're not going to be able to produce and play at a very high level to make up the money that you lost the offseason prior. Right? These are risks that involves, taking less in hopes to getting a bigger payday in the future. And that's why I don't like taking such risks, because it could be helpful, but also bad things could happen, such as injuries, underperforming and things of that nature. Maybe something, and just like I said, maybe VJ Edgecombe, tapping into greatness in his rookie season, and then, playing very, very well, outplaying you for that spot. Right? And if you're coming off the bench, you're damn sure ain't gonna make no $25 million a year. Right? If you're coming off the bench, you're not gonna make $25 million a year. So those are the risks, involved in, taking less in hopes of trying to get a bigger payday in the future. Now, there's a lot of good that goes with it, but there's a lot of bad things that could also go with it. Injuries, injuries, somebody outplaying you, the team wanting to go in a different direction. Now, if the team decides that they're going to lose or they're going to tank, which, I don't know why they would tank, because, you're not going to have any lottery picks in the future, or at least not anytime soon, right? So if they decide that they're going to lose and bench their best players and give you the opportunities, then hell yeah, go get the bag. Go average 25, right? Go put up 25 and you'll get 20 million or more, right? Go put up 25. But if they decide that they want to win and they give you a role that you believe is not very, very, not very suitable in terms of, wanting to produce at a high level and get a bigger payday, then guess what? It hurts you, right? It hurts you. And smash that like button. Smash that like button. It's going to hurt you. Or if the Sixers decide that they want to move you and then you end up getting traded to a team that's trying to rebuild and they're focused on playing their younger players than the veterans, then guess what? You're fucked. You're fucked, right? If the Sixers ended up saying, yo, we think you're going to leave in the offseason, so we're going to move you right now in order to get something for you, get some value for you instead of just walking for free. And they end up trading you to Brooklyn. Now, Brooklyn is trying to rebuild. And their biggest priorities or their highest priority, main priority, is to play the younger guys, right? So guess what? If you end up in a situation like that a team is prioritizing their younger players instead of the veterans. Now, I mean, Quentin Grimes is, he's also young. I mean, he's 24, 25, maybe 26. But case in point is that teams like that are going to focus more on the players that they drafted instead of, the vet guys that are on the team. Right. I think Brooklyn got 5, 6 draft picks. So that's their focus right now. That's what they're focused on. So if you're Quentin Grimes and you end up on a team like that, then yeah, you can kiss, getting that bigger bag. You can kiss it goodbye because it's not coming anytime soon. Or if you end up getting traded to another contending team that has, players that do the same thing that you do and even better, guess what? You're going to get benched. And when you get benched, you're not going to play and put forth the production that is necessary to get a bigger payday. So it's just very, very tricky. I mean, I always say this, like, I always want the Sixers to do whatever helps them in the future. Okay, appreciate you, Breezy. Appreciate you for the correction. He says Brooklyn has 5, right? They picked up 5 draft picks in this year's draft. So if they decide that that's their priority, those are the players that they're trying to build, guess what? You're not going to get that opportunity, though. You're not going to be starting. And I mean, I don't even know if he gets moved to Brooklyn. I don't even know if he starts because, they got similar players in that role that do better things, right? I mean, Cam Thomas is one of the best young scorers in the league. So I don't know if he even gets a playing spot over Cam Thomas. Right. So it's just tricky. And me personally, I always say this, like, if you have the opportunity to go for the bag, just go for it. Right. Just go for it. Now, if he has that opportunity right now, I mean, absolutely, he's definitely going for the bag. But the thing is that teams are not willing to give him that bag yet. So I think he should, he should settle for whatever teams are willing to give him. Right. Was it 15, 14 million a year? Yeah, just take that. Take that 2 years, don't take a long-term deal, but take a 2-year, because at least you have something guaranteed for the next few years. And then guess what? Whatever team you end up on, you just have to do your thing. But if you're on the Sixers and you sign that qualifying offer and the Sixers end up being healthy, right? Because miracles happen all the time. I mean, who knows? Maybe this could be the most healthiest season in Joel Embiid's career, and then he ends up playing 82 games. Now, I know it's not going to happen, but it's a hypothetical. Right? It's a hypothetical. But what if Paul George doesn't get hurt next year? What happened if all of these guys play 82? Now, they're not going to play 82 games, but the point that I'm trying to make here is, what if all of those guys are healthy for the most part? Right? Now, if they're all healthy, then you know that you're fucked because the Sixers are going to try to win. And in the process of them trying to win, you're not going to get a bigger role. Right? You might be in the corner somewhere, right, waiting for somebody to pass you the rock. You're not going to be involved in the offense as much. Your touches is going to significantly plummet. The amount of shots is going to plummet. And then guess what? Your overall value gets decreased. Right? Now, if you win a championship, yeah, that's cool and all, but I mean, what team is gonna pay you? Right? Other teams are gonna pay you, but it's not gonna be 25 a year. Because that's, and I keep saying 25 a year because that's what he wants. That's what he's going for. Right? That's what he's looking for. So there's risks that, you know, come with it. But I mean, what if, you know, him betting on himself, what if it ends up being successful? I mean, if it ends up being successful, and like I said, teams are gonna want to pay for him, pay for his services. He might be the biggest free agent on the market. As crazy as that sounds, right? He might be the biggest free agent on the market, and every team is gonna want a Quentin Grimes to be on their roster. So that's what comes with it. But hopefully it ends up being successful for him. Now this is just rumors though. That was from the report that it is believed that he's gonna settle for the 8.7. So whatever decision that he ends up coming to, him and his team or representatives, I hope it's the best. I hope it's the best decision, and then it helps him in the future. Because, you know, risks like that, those are very, very, those are very, very risky. You know, those are very, very risky. And if you have the opportunity to go for the money, like I said, you just take it, right? You just take it. But I mean, looking at him, I mean, let me see how many games he plays every year, and then we can make a prediction to how many games he could play next season. But I mean, I know it depends on a lot of factors, right? But let me just do this last thing right here and bring it to an end. So Quentin Grimes, so he played 75 games total games last year. So 75 games total last year, played 51 the season prior, played 71, 22, 23, and then he played 46. Now, I mean, 46, I mean, he was a younger player. He was a rookie, so that don't really count. So we can start from, you know, year 2. So 71, 51, 75. So, okay, he's for the most part, he's healthy, right? He's healthy because he's able to play 70 plus games. So I think it's safe to think or assume that he's going to be healthy for the most part next season, right? But the thing is that what role are you going to have on the team? And if you get that role, is somebody going to beat you for your spot? Because I'm saying that he should be the starter. But what if in training camp, VJ Edgecombe beats him to that 2-guard spot? You know, these are all risks that, you know, he should consider. I think him and his representatives have to consider this because, you know, you don't want to leave nobody on the table. That's all I'm saying. So if it's a 2-year, 25, whatever deal it is, I think he should take that and not go for the qualifying offer. Right? I'm just suggesting now, me personally, like I said, I want the Sixers to do whatever benefits them. So if it's giving them 8.7, okay, cool, no problem. But I just don't want Quentin Grimes to take that gamble, right? I just don't want him to take that gamble because it's very, very risky. You know, careers are not that long. Careers are very, very short. The average career in the NBA is, 4 years? And he came in 21, 22? Yeah, so, you know, get the bag while you can. And don't leave no money on the table. Do not take no pay cuts. Never do anything like that. Don't take pay cuts. So, but yeah, that's all I got. Let me just summarize what I covered, what I talked about. You know, the Sixers bringing back the iconic black jerseys. That'd be a good thing, but I want to see my guys healthy so they can win with those, you know, with those uniforms on, right? These uniforms are very, very iconic. And I think everybody listening at some point had one of these, right? So they were very, very iconic. And so yeah, and also Iverson is going to be inducting, along with D Wade, he's going to be inducting Carmelo Anthony into the Hall of Fame. So that's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. And then secondly, I talked about VJ Edgecombe getting the buzz that he should start. I don't think he should. I think if Quentin Grimes comes back, Quentin Grimes should be the starting two guard. But if VJ Edgecombe is able to beat Grimes to the spot, then okay, yeah, he can have it. Right? He can have the spot. Right? Nothing is given. Everything should be earned. That's my belief. That's what Nick Nurse believes too, and that's what I'm going to stick with. And then last but not least, we talked about the Quentin Grimes update, which is him going for the Sixers qualifying offer for 1 year in order to become an unrestricted free agent the next season, and then test the markets and see what's available and what teams would be willing to offer him, right? And like I said, hopefully it's not a situation where he gets deals way lower than this year, right? So yeah, that's what I talked about in this live. Sixers talk, Sixers news, whatever you want to call it. Thank y'all for hanging out with DFJ Hoops. Right, salute to my guys that popped up. Salute to my guys that showed up. Salute to Breezy. Y'all can go check him. Check him out. Big fan Breezy, I think. Yeah, big fan Breezy. He's shorting it up. So big fan Breezy. Go check out Casual's channel too. I think it's Hoop Conductor. Right, Hoop Conductor, and then Casual React. So y'all should definitely check him out. And then shout out to the realist, the fakest, or fake Clipper fan. I'm gonna get on his helmet when the season starts. Yeah. And then salute to Humble, salute to my guy One Mike. Always in here showing love, always in here supporting the channel. Promoting it on their social media accounts too. I absolutely appreciate it. And salute to everybody that tuned in. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. Peace.